Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. I'm your host DoodleDuck97 and today we're going to be taking a look at a Tikal figure. In fact no, I'm telling a lie. If you've seen the thumbnail you know what we're going to make here. We're going to make Sticks of the Badger from Sonic Boom. And here is the official Tomy Sonic Boom action figure. I'm going to be honest, I've never owned this out of box, but I think it's a pretty cool figure overall. I really do like that Sticks figure and it's probably the best figure in the entire Sonic Boom line. This is Tikal. Of course we have a very well manufactured figure. Tikal is very well built, it's except her hands don't really look great. So the first thing we're going to do is soften up the figure so we can loosen every single one of those joints. We're going to want every part of this off due to the sculpting, and of course we're going to have to really go in on those arms because I do want to change them up so that she can actually look like Sticks, because Sticks obviously doesn't have gloves. So we're going to have to try and do something here to make that look kind of coherent, I guess. What you can see here, the first thing I wanted to take off was the skirt because I want to keep that because modifying it into Sticks skirt is going to be a very useful thing for me to do, especially with the fact that it's a flexible plastic. You can see here now that I'm using this as a guidance to see what I could do with flexibility and stuff, because the skirt is going to be modified slightly so that she can get some of these poses. And speaking of poses, this is the render that I was basing this custom for mainly. Of course I used some of the Sonic Boom ones, but this was the main one, and as you can see here I'm tearing up a Blaze hand, and I also have a Rouge hand from Fodder that I'm using because they look like that render specifically, and I want an open hand so that I can, you know, put her boomerang in there. I don't know how much she uses the boomerang. I think she uses a lot in the games, but I'm not too sure how often she uses it in the show. It's in a few of her renders too, so why not? Now if you haven't already seen, you may want to check out my adding elbow joints to Sonic figures. I'll link that just here as you can see. And if you haven't already acquired these elbow joints or these ball joints in general, you should probably get a hold of them, especially if not for adding elbow joints to your figures and just adding any more flexibility in that sense. For example, I'm adding elbow joints and wrist joints here because I want Sticks to be able to articulate. I want her to be able to pull off as many poses as possible. And the wrist joint is specifically done so that we can make it look like it's streamlined and it's going straight into her wrist because she obviously doesn't wear gloves. So that is something that I really wanted to tackle here and make so that it looked coherent, I guess. But you should definitely pick up these joints if you can, and especially in bulk loads, they're very easy to get a hold of if you can find them at a cheap enough price. As you can see here now, I'm just comparing the Tikal head to obviously all the other characters, and I'm going to switch that up for Sonic head. It's not because Tikal's head is bad by any chance, but because it's based on the Sonic Runner's model, her head is very massive in comparison to her body, and it doesn't look right to me personally. That's exactly why her hands don't look great. And I've switched it out for a Sonic head because that's going to give me a lot more posability, and Sonic's head is sculpted around Knuckles, and it looks better around the Just Toys Amy mod that I did for Amy, which you can check out here. You can see now that I'm using my Dremel to sand down an initial layer on top of Tikal's skirt, because this is going to make it look like it's kind of weathered and it's got like a patch in it, and I wanted to really keep that, you know, flexibility on Tikal's skirt so it could add for posing and such. You can see now I've moved on to the sculpting of the face, mainly the eyes, because I've also got to change this uni eye that Sonic has into a dual set of eyes. This wouldn't have been an issue had I used Tikal, but because I've switched to Sonic, I've now got to do a little bit more process work and try and get those symmetrical kind of looking eyes. As you can see here, I've dyed the bottom of her body black and the top of her legs black to give the illusion of shorts. This is because this is how the Mario and Sonic games depict her, and I'm assuming that's how Sega would have designed her if she had initially started in a Sonic game rather than the Sonic Boom universe that she spawned in. And that's kind of just how the render I wanted to make it look so she fits with the main cast. Now you'll see we've moved on to working on the feet and the legs. This is me just giving a kind of drawing sketch almost to see what I'm going to do with this process, and you can see I'm just building up a sculpt, making sure it articulates really well, because there's no point to this if it's not going to articulate. Those ball joints in the feet are fantastic, they add a lot more posability. And as you'll see here, I'm just sculpting up a bit more of the head too. It's got a very boomerang-like shaped Sticks head, which I'd never noticed until I actually started sculpting her, and you know, it's very fitting for the character, I must say. And you'll see I sculpted a lot of stuff off screen because there's only so much of the sculpting process I could show, and I tried to show as much as I could possibly do in the video, but I did sculpt a few things off screen, and I also was starting to sculpt here on the ears. Her ears aren't as pointy as Sonic's, they're more rounded, and they've obviously got a few spikes on the end, that kind of, you know, ragged design that she's got. It's very clever how they design Sticks, and I really like how they've chose to make her look. As you can see also, this is the first time I've posted in a long time, so it's very nice to be back, and I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I really hope you're enjoying it so far. I have been away from this kind of sculpting process and a lot of the painting process, and just basically making videos and such. I've been very backlogged with a lot of stuff, and I've been going through a few things IRL, but I hope to come back now with a bang, or a boom if you will, for Sonic Boom, har har. And yeah, I really liked how the sculpting process on this came out. I really enjoyed making sticks. This is some of the processes that I always go through with these figures. Like, I start with just a base figure and try to make something work. You'll see here as the process goes, I kind of just edit every little piece and just go from there and rebuild it as I go, because I wanna see how it looks. I know it would probably make more sense to do all the sculpting first and then add the figure back together, but this is how I envision the character, and it's always how I go about sculpting these things. It sometimes works and it sometimes breaks stuff, but that's kind of a durability test at the same time. You'll see the skirt has also been edited to the point where I've like added the edges on and made it look very, you know, hand built, like someone in a jungle has just obviously thrown together a piece of fabric and just winged it, I guess. That's also kind of what I'm doing with this shirt. I'm trying to get every detail that she has, like all these little belts and all these little metal parts that she has on her shirt. I don't really know if they're like bolts almost, but they're very small pieces that I had to add. Time for the horror process now. Of course, we've got this duck beak, very fitting I suppose, on Stick's face. I really wanted to capture that middle mouth, because obviously the Sonic Boom series has that middle mouth. All of the characters have it in the game, if I'm remembering right. I could be wrong. Some of the models had it especially. And I know Stick's had it a lot in the show, and she's very much seen with the middle mouth, so I wanted to capture that as best as I could. I started by sculpting the bottom lip, then the tongue, then the top lip, and that kind of gives it that illusion then. I think this is the last of the sculpting process that I showed. I had the necklace, and the necklace and the belt were extraordinarily fragile, and the first initial whack at the belt and stuff broke. I'm not even going to deny that here, but I also had to make sure that it would work, and it worked around the figure, so even putting it around the neck I had to flatten it a bit. You can see the belt there, it was a very big pain in the ass, and the tail was the easiest part, but here we have moved on to the priming process. I did skip a few steps here, and I hope you guys enjoy what you've seen so far. I'm trying to get back into the rhythm of these things, and I'm trying to make this as streamlined as possible. As you can see, I'm also drawing on the primed figure because I want to get that perfect look. I'm wanting to try and make this as symmetrical as possible, and I'd hate to prime and then paint it and mess it up as I go. So I always just do a guiding line just to make sure that I'm getting there. As you can see here, I'm mixing together a brown because I didn't have the correct brown, and I obviously, being slightly colourblind, haven't got the best clue of what I'm doing, so I always have to ask my partner just to make sure that I'm getting the correct colour. But I think Stick's turned out really well, and as you can see, I've painted her off screen. The next thing I moved on to was the boomerang, gave it this kind of wooden, like weathered kind of look almost. And as you know, if you've got any knowledge on Sonic Boom, it's very much a masking tape series, so what better way than to get the sports tape look with some masking tape. The next thing I just kind of moved on to was obviously painting the eyes, and it's always a very daunting process, especially because it's on the white, and I really don't like doing it, because if you mess it up, it's one of those things that it takes an eternity to do another coat to get that white back on there so that it doesn't show through if you mess it up. Again, like I did with the head, I always recommend using a pencil to just kind of get that in there, because you can rub it off. Not too heavy on the pencil and you'll get a really light coat. As you can see here, I'm just testing out, getting the tail all glued in. Every part is now getting glued so that everything sort of sits right and perfectly. The tail is very fragile, but it works a little bit easier because it's got a bit of management around the skirt because of the flexibility. And the last bit of filming I did on Sticks here for the painting process, because I did miss a lot of painting process, so I do apologise for that. But if you have made it this far, I appreciate you, and I'm very thankful for that, because I've obviously been out of commission for quite a while now. So I'm very thankful if you've made it this far into the video, so I appreciate it. And after I'm done painting this shoe here, you're going to get to see the Sticks figure in all its glory, fully assembled. And I'm really proud of how Sticks turned out. You guys can be the judge of that in the comments below. I'd really like to hear your opinions and feedback on it. I really do like how she turned out for me, fully from scratch figure. It took me less time than I thought it would. I'm very proud of it. It was kind of my getting back into the feel of customs and such, because I do have a lot of backlogs and stuff. Like, there is stuff like Metal Knuckles that I've never finished from the classic series, and a certain Echidna that I've yet to finish, but by the time this video might have come out, I've already finished her. I'm not too sure. I'm very proud of it, and as you can see here, the wrists, the elbows, they kind of chip the paint, but amazingly enough, the boomerang in the hand doesn't chip the paint, which I'm very proud of, because I was fully expecting the paint to either rub or chip, similar to Amy's hammer and how it does it on the 4-inch figure, how it just chips off completely and it ruins the hand. As you can see, this is how it looks next to the official Sticks. I do, at this point in the video, I'm trying to get it posed exactly like how it looks in the box, but I'm really proud with it. I think it isn't the exact same as the figure in the box, of course, because there's not as many details as the official thing as mine, but I'm really proud of how she turned out. Here's how she looked originally. Of course, this Tikal obviously has the gold paint and the adjustments on the hands so that she has larger hands, because I do feel her hands were too small at the bat, especially if we were to compare it next to the Styx figure. It would have just looked really stupid in my eyes. But yeah, I'm really, really proud of this Styx. I've got a lot of ideas in my mind, but I would love to hear some feedback from you guys about what you'd like to see in the future. This is how she looks, and I'm trying to get her to look exactly like the render, as you can see here. I really wanted to make her look exactly like that. You can see the range of posability I gave into the legs as I was speaking about. It wouldn't have been possible if I'd sculpted a skirt, and that's kind of why I kept the skirt originally and tried to get it as close to how Styx's look from the back. She stands really well too. She's not too top heavy on the top, which is really good. I'm really proud of this, and yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Moving on the glamour shots, and take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Leave in the comments what you would like to see from me next. All the best, guys. Thanks for watching.
Here we go! Styx! Whoa! And I'm only headed up from here! Don't you underestimate me! I was raised in the jungle, you hear? Ugh, how did this happen? Gotta try harder next time. You might notice a few things missing from your shack. I can neither confirm nor deny my involvement in that.